Coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this is the Spit Sports Show. This is why I created a sports podcast. For days like this and just the utter chaos and change that can happen in the world of sports within a snapshot instant. It's so fascinating how within 2 days, we got two blockbuster trades that personally affect my life and sports watching experience, but in just two completely, totally, utterly, completely different packages and shock factors. One had maybe the longest lead into a trade that we've seen in some time, and the other one just happens in the dead of night. Nobody knows it's coming down the line. What the like one of the best players in the entire world in the NBA gets traded. But I want to start with the Canucks. Because this did happen a couple days ago, and I have a bunch of thoughts on where the Canucks go from here with this JT Miller trade that just happened. So if you're somehow living under a rock, JT Miller was traded to the New York Rangers, and the Canucks then flipped that pick that they got in that trade for Marcus Pettersson from the Penguins, and they also got a couple other pieces from the Rangers. So all in total, it equates out to Vinny Desharnais, JT Miller, Danton Heinen, Eric Brandstrom, and a prospect named Jack Dorrington for Scheitel, Mancini, Marcus Pettersson, and Fernstrom. So going into this trade, the Canucks were obviously screwed right off the bat. This could have been published in hockey history books for how to not handle a locker room rift, because clearly they tried everything they could to make it work, but they did it through pulling strings and trying to maneuver players into talking to other players about certain things and whispering in JT Miller's ear, "Oh, we need you to get on Pettersson a little bit more. He's not really living up to that contract." And then, getting into Quinn Hughes' ear about trying to get everyone together. It was just a colossal clown show of mismanagement, which all chasmed into that Jim Rutherford article, which came out at towards the end of January. I want to say on the 29th. And when that article came out, it pretty much just put on public display for everybody to see. This is not a media creation. Everything that they've been saying about us is true. And we are looking to get rid of a 100-point score and one of the cornerstones of our franchise. So as soon as that article was published and Rutherford just basically aired all of Vancouver's dirty laundry for all to see, we knew that the package they were going to get back was not going to be equivalent to JT Miller's talents. And the fact that clearly at his lowest point, he's a 30-goal scorer. At his highest point, he's a 100-point scorer. Like, this guy was top of the charts in terms of trade bait. So they actually weren't completely screwed, though, until Carolina traded for Mikko Rantanen, because the only two teams that really expressed interest for JT Miller were the Rangers and the Hurricanes. Once the Hurricanes made their big move for a franchise piece, it kind of really only left one destination for JT Miller to go, which happened to be all the way to the Eastern Conference, which I'm sure the Vancouver Canucks appreciated. But what this made me think of instantly is, like, I want to look back at the 2024 free agency period as well, because I think this is a year plus run from Patrick Alvin, Jim Rutherford, Francis Aquilini, and every single Canucks front office personnel member of just ineptitude and mismanagement and really no idea how to A, build a functional hockey team, and B, even if you have a functional hockey team on accident, keep it functional. They just have no idea how to do it. So 2024 free agent signings. So the first one, the big one, was Jake DeBrusk. He got 5.5 mil. He's got 18 goals and 31 points in 51 games. He has not been a bust by any means, but I would say for what we were expecting as Canucks fans from this guy, he's been about 80 to 85% of it. So he hasn't been an abject disaster. There's no way you can objectively say that. However, in terms of his expectations coming in, he's come up just short of those. But I'm not going to kill them for that signing. Whatever. Kiefer Sherwood, 1.5 mil, 13 goals, 21 points, 47 games. Awesome signing. His numbers don't really do his game justice. He's an impact guy. He makes hits all of the time. He's constantly rushing up in the play. He's probably our best forechecker. He gets the puck in the dirty areas. That guy's been awesome. 11 out of 10 signing. No complaints there. But then you get to the other ones. And this is where you can really look to Alvin and Rutherford and all the guys I mentioned and be like, really? Like, you were coming off of a potential Stanley Cup final run where you won the Pacific Division, and this is the best you could do with that, attraction of Vancouver as a rising hockey team. Derek Forbort, 1.5 mil, 4 points in 25 games. He's not an NHL level talent. Although for some reason my buddy's a huge fan of him, thinks he's great defensively. I think he's fine defensively, but for the terrible puck moving he brings and obviously just zero scoring at all, not a good signing. Vinny Desharnais, again, 1.5 million, 3 points in 31 games. He just got traded and he was bad. So again, we signed these guys who are barely NHL level talents, and for some reason, when they're barely NHL level talents, we complain that the Canucks seemingly don't have the same amount of talent that they had last year. Anyways, Danton Heinen was the worst one. $2.5 million. 6 goals, 18 points in 51 games. He's traded and bad and can't play defense. So the Canucks had, I thought, the best opportunity they've had since probably 2011 to make it to the Stanley Cup final at a minimum, because they just lost to Edmonton in Game 7 by 1 goal, who lost to Florida in Game 7 by 2 goals, I think. So I know that's almost beating the guy who almost beat the guy. But if you watch that series, Canucks versus Edmonton, I think if Demko played, I think the Canucks would have beat the Oilers. Now, would they have beat the Stars and so on and so on? I don't know. But my point is, clearly coming into this season, they had the highest vibes that they've had, the most momentum they've had, and the best team they've had. And that was how they replenished their roster and tried to make it better by terrible signings other than Sherwood. Danton Heinen, awful signing. Desharnais, awful signing. Forbort, awful signing. DeBrusk hasn't really lived up. Like, they had an opportunity and they've just squandered it. Like, I can't get over how mad I am about how badly they've mishandled this franchise. Like, that's what I mean by, like, how quick sports can change. Like, 9 months ago, I was confident this team was going to be a contender for at least 3 years. Now, it's like, are we going to be contending at all in the next 5 years? And is our captain and best defenseman in the league going to re-sign? Like, it's insane how much the trajectory of an entire franchise and city in this case, like the Canucks are all Vancouver has. Besides the Whitecaps and the BC Lions, who, like, their seasons aren't in right now. Like, this is Vancouver's team. And like I said, within 8 months, it just completely flips on its head. And it's at the point where even if the Canucks do make the playoffs, they're not going to make any noise unless they luck into playing Winnipeg, which I think they could give Winnipeg a run for their money, but Winnipeg probably gets them in 5-6. And the thing that really makes me upset about this trade in particular, though, because I've talked a lot about Vancouver's inept mismanagement, which I think crescendoed into this trade. The reason why I think it crescendoed and why this trade is so bad is because the Canucks objectively got much better on defense. Marcus Pettersson is great in terms of he's boring. He makes all the right plays. He wants to basically make sure the puck is going nowhere near either team's net. He'd love to play nothing but neutral zone hockey if Marcus Pettersson could. So getting that piece and getting a up-and-coming defenseman in Mancini, who Rangers fans think is going to be pretty good. And then Fernstrom, he's going to probably be going up and down in the minors, which is whatever. You were going to get better on defense. But like I said, the issue with that is the Canucks were already fine at defense. Like, in fact, they were like really good. They were second best in the league in expected goals against. Like, keeping pucks out of the net has not been the Canucks' issue. It's been putting the puck in the net. The Canucks have been maybe the most boring team in the entire league to watch because they have no excitement. They don't score. They're second. No, sorry, scratch that. They are dead last in expected goals for per game this season. Dead last. And they just traded away JT Miller. So objectively, it makes no sense. This season, it makes no sense. They put themselves in a position where they could only hope to not lose as bad as they could. They were never going to win this trade. It was impossible. They put themselves in that position. And then Rutherford has the balls to come out and say, oh yeah, the players have put us in this situation. It's untenable. When we get a bad return, don't blame me. But it was your fault from the get-go. Players have riffs all the time. And then you want to, by the way, now that he's traded and done, and I've read the reports, I am dead on convinced that JT Miller's leave of absence, and Patrick Allvin spoke to the media after this trade happened, by the way, and this is another reason why I think this. JT Miller's leave of absence 100% was management's attempt to get this Pettersson thing to calm down. Just, JT, take some time away. Take a nice vacation. Collect yourself. We know you're a hot-tempered personality. Take your time. Come back in a couple weeks. Pettersson, give him a couple games, reset, and see what happens so we can move on for the rest of the season. Except that obviously didn't work. And if that is what happened, and like I said, I am 100% sure in my heart of hearts that this is what happened, but it's not confirmed yet. But if that is what happened, that is the single dumbest management move I've ever seen in my life. First of all, you're just putting away your best player on the shelf, or one of your best players on the shelf, for seemingly no reason other than to potentially help locker room chemistry. Two, I know absence makes the heart grow fonder, but that's only if you're fond of somebody. Like, if you're absent from a guy you hate, the next time you see him, at least in my experience, you're not going to hate him any less unless it's been for like years. Unless there's been like real time to get, heal that wound. A couple weeks ain't going to do anything. Nothing. So it's crazy to me how bad they screwed up the situation. I'm now, for what the Canucks got back, I'm not going to kill them because like I said, in their position, they got what they could. Scheitel's a decent prospect who could turn into a good second line center. I hope he does. Mancini, like I said, solid defensive prospect. And I like Marcus Pettersson a lot. He's exactly what we needed in that top four. But considering where they were when this whole JT Miller fiasco started, it's embarrassing how they were able to screw this up. It's really embarrassing. And this franchise does not deserve any sort of success, to be totally honest, because it starts from the top down. And when the top down is meandering and making pulling puppet strings and speaking to the media about all of their team's dirty laundry, it's just like, you don't deserve success. You don't deserve continued success. And that's why the Canucks probably aren't going to have much continued success for the next, gosh, I have no idea. Only thing that is going to make Canucks fans feel better is if Quinn Hughes announces he's going to resign. But that's not going to happen for another year minimum. So Canucks fans, I'm sorry. Like the Canucks needed to get 3 Petterssons to get out the Miller stench in the locker room. Like, that's the management's plan? Get another bloody Pettersson? 2 wasn't enough to get rid of the Miller rift? Oh my gosh. makes me want to puke. I don't understand. Canucks management, they've had an absolute howler. But to make Canucks fans feel better, if you watch basketball at all, as I transition into the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks just made a worse move than anything the Canucks could ever dream of, in my opinion. And I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with this. The biggest trade in NBA history and the most shocking trade in sports history happened on Saturday night. Luka Doncic traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. That I still can't process that. For Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick. Wow. Where do I start with this? Well, I think we start in this place where this is the best thing that could have ever happened for Luka Doncic. Ever. And it starts with this. He is objectively the most talented offensive basketball player in the world. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't say that. Jokic exists. It's him or Jokic, though, for most offensively talented force in the world. The only thing that has held Luka back even a slight bit. Like, the thing is, nothing's held him back. He's what, a 5-time first-team All-NBA player. He averages like 33 a game in the playoffs. He's the best playoff scorer ever. He's a certified bucket. He's an MVP candidate every year. He's the greatest offensive driver we've ever seen. But the one thing that was a knock on him, and still is clearly, is the fact that he doesn't keep himself in tip-top shape all the time. And what that does is, not only does it make him wear down a bit during games, it also makes him almost completely inept on the defensive side, and it makes him more prone to soft tissue injuries, which is what is keeping him out of the Mavericks lineup, I guess now the Lakers lineup, right now. Why this is so perfect for Luka is he is going to see firsthand from a guy who he has all-time respect for. Luka has gone on multiple platforms and said, LeBron is the player who I modeled my game after. That is my idol. That's who I watched growing up. He is going to get a front row seat to how the greatest conditioned athlete of all time treats his body on a daily basis. He is going to learn the ropes of LeBron's routine, what you need to do to sustain excellence, what you need to do to keep your body in the best condition possible for basketball games, which obviously is a tough spot for Luka, who enjoys his hookah and beers. And listen, I have nothing against that. I don't care. He's an amazing basketball player who enjoys himself from time to time. Like, that's not a problem. The thing is, he's going to be able to see LeBron do this. So he'll have the, knowledge of what to do. The only other thing that he needs is the motivation to do it. And this is where I think the GM of the Mavs, I think Nico Harrison, he screwed up even more with his comments after he traded the best player in Mavericks history, than actually trading the best player in Mavericks history. Why, in God's green earth, would you go on record 20 minutes after our jaws collectively dropped to the floor and say, we believe defense wins championships, and we believe that Anthony Davis gives us the best chance to win championships? Then it comes out 2 minutes after that, the Mavs' main issue was Luka's lack of conditioning and lack of commitment to off-the-court activities. Dude, if that's not motivation for Luka to go into next season, or even, work on this injury while he's out, and if that's not the biggest motivating factor for a superstar talent I have ever heard to get his act together off the court in his conditioning, I don't know what is. Your former general manager, the general manager of the team who you were the franchise cornerstone for, traded you before your prime because he didn't think you were committed enough to your conditioning. I'll show you. I've got LeBron James now. I'm living in sunny Los Angeles. I'm going to burn calories just by sitting back in my lounge chair. I cannot believe he said that. So I think I'm gonna put a stupid amount of money on Luka to win MVP for the 2025-2026 season. Where does this leave the Lakers? Well, this is going to be a fascinating team to watch. If they don't make another move, which I'm sure they will, they have to bring in a big at this point because the Lakers already suck at defense and they just lost a top, I'd say top 2 defender in the NBA, top 3 undoubtedly. So it's kind of like what I was just talking about with the Canucks. Like they were already really bad at offense and they traded away another offensive player. But the thing is with the Lakers, when you get a chance to trade for a guy like Luka Doncic, you just do it because this has so much less to do with this season than it has to do with the Lakers just found their franchise player for the next decade plus. You'd hope. I don't understand this from the Mavericks' perspective objectively. I don't understand their future plans because Anthony Davis is not only worse than Luka Doncic as a basketball player, he's 6 years older. And listen, I think the Mavs are a good team now with Anthony Davis. Like, they're not winning a title. They're not better than OKC. They're not beating a Boston. They're not on a Cleveland level. I don't think they're on a Houston level right now. Like, this is the most shocking trade in sports history. No one knew about it. LeBron James himself, who has a pulse on everything basketball, that guy is the basketball savant of basketball savants. He had no idea this was happening. Zero. Everybody thought it was fake at first. I sure did. My buddy called me while I was on the game, and he said, "Bro, Luka to the Lakers." And of course, I hung up on him because I was like, "What the? Why are you calling me about that? Like, that's not like that's that's not that funny. Like, that's not like why would you call me randomly? It's like 10 at night." And then he calls me back and answer the phone. He says, "Luka to the Lakers." I said, "Stop this! Like, what? This isn't funny. Like, seriously, what are you doing?" And he's like, "No, it's real. Check your bloody phone." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And it's real. And the Mavericks have traded a top 4 at worst player in the NBA for a injury-prone 31-year-old and a single first-round pick. Just for context, Rudy Gobert went for, I think, 4 first-round picks. And I know Anthony Davis wasn't included in that trade. But still, that is just unbelievable for me to process that. And the fact that the Mavericks went to the Lakers, which makes it even more of a blunder. How do you not hold an auction for this guy? Like, the reporting was it was Anthony Davis. That's the only way they were going to trade Luka Doncic. Why don't you take a second and say, would San Antonio give up the sun, the moon, and a couple of stars to get Victor Wembanyama and Luka together? Probably. Would Houston, who needs one more big star, would they trade, I don't know, a bunch of picks, which they definitely have? Maybe a piece like I don't think they'd trade Shingun, but you know what I mean? Like the Cavaliers are freaking awesome this year. I don't think they would trade for Luka Doncic, but what I'm saying, like there's so many teams in the NBA who would want to get their hands on this guy. Why wouldn't you hold a fire sale? You just trade him in the dead of night to the Los Angeles Lakers again for an objectively awesome basketball player who's still top 10. 31-year-old and always doubtful. Man, this is the most shocking trade in sports history. Certainly the most shocking trade I've ever seen in my life. And I've loved sports since I was in a crib. And I think it's going to make the Mavericks better this year and the Lakers worse this year. Who cares? Like, this guy is going to be one of the best players in the world. Like, he has legitimate top 10 all-time potential. Like, if he wins a couple MVPs, gets a ring in Los Angeles, man, like, he's knocking on that door of, like, the Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan territory of all-time greatness, and I know I'm looking so far ahead in the future, but how can I not look so far ahead in the future when the Lakers just got a 25-year-old MVP guy? Again, he should be doing this for another 10 years, especially if he hops on this LeBron, method of never getting injured and old age is just a myth. Oh my gosh. This is ridiculous. I've never seen anything like this before. I think it makes the Mavericks better quicker and the Lakers worse, but like who gives a rat? Like if LeBron plays for one more season after this, which you have to imagine he will now that Luka's on his team. By the way, this is LeBron's fever dream. Like he loves Anthony Davis. That's his guy. But Luka's his favorite player. And it's been a fever dream or a pipe dream or, a dream of his to play with him. But obviously that didn't seem feasible. He's 40 years old and locked into the Lakers. Anthony Davis just signed a massive extension. You would think that that's just something you'd see in an all-star game. But nope, it's here, it's real, it's happening. I cannot wait to watch NBA basketball again. And that's the other thing. This is a huge win for the NBA. This is the biggest moment the NBA's had since Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, I think. Like the interest that's going to be in every single Lakers game now that Luka and LeBron are on the same team. And another knock on the league has been it's so hard to make trades because you have to match salaries nearly identically. So it makes it so difficult to, make sure that this guy's matched up with this guy. Oh, I need to add another piece in here. And you add in all those draft picks. It's like, it's not a very easy system to operate within. But these two teams just figured it out and made the single biggest blockbuster in the history of the league. Like, I know Kareem got traded. He requested to be traded, though. I know Shaq went to the Lakers, but he signed there. And everyone expected that that was probably going to happen. But, like, I can't think of any other comparisons other than those two. And those two don't compare to it at all. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable for the NBA, who is going to have all-time national interest now. Especially, like, right before the Super Bowl. So the NFL season's just about to end. Like, wow, this could not have worked out better. Yeah, I just went for a good 30 minutes. I could probably do another hour, but I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching. This is really why we love sports, isn't it? Please leave a comment below any of your thoughts on what I had to say today. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Switchboard just hit over 400 subs. Thanks, guys. That's a big milestone. 400? Let's go. Thank you all so much for that. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Love you guys. Peace.